Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's start a whole new series here based on your new suggestions. Please keep them coming. I'm probably going to do about another 4 or 5 videos after this one, and I'll also go into some of the older suggestions as well. But yes indeed, I'm excited to see what is going to happen with these new videos and with your new suggestions. This one I picked because it's fascinating to note that there's two sides, two different legends associated with this particular tale. So it's one story, but there's two versions of it. And so I found that quite fascinating. I'm going to share both versions here. Both of them are pretty much very fantastical. Like, they have a lot of fantasy associated with them. So whether it's true, whether it's not, it's up for you to decide. But I'll go ahead and I'll present both sides of it here. And it has to do with this. It's known as the urban legend of the drowned town in Wales. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating info associated with this urban legend and both sides that seem to be favoring it to this very day. So what was this urban legend, in this case of the drowned town in Wales? Well, pretty much as it says, it has to do with a town that's supposedly buried deep underneath the lakes there of a lake called Lake Bala, located there in Wales. There's another name for this lake, I guess an older name for it, known as the Llyn Tegid, but for all intents and purposes, today it's known as Lake Bala. But yes, if you go to this lake, which is a very, very large lake, it's a lake that's about maybe 4 miles long, and it has about over 1,000 acres in coverage. Most importantly, though, it has about 136 feet deep status. If you go there, you're supposed to then see what is the remnants of this town that was with him. More likely, though, it's underneath the water itself. Like, those are the remnants of it. And when you see the water, you're looking at the after effects of these particular stories. So when this happened, who knows, with regards to like the time period, but somewhere along the way these legends just started happening, and then they just continued afterward, generation after generation, passing these along. Both of them seem to have more like a Aesop's fable type stuff associated with them, where it's more of a buyer's beware. Like, it's bad people will be like placed into a situation where they'll be corrected. That's the sense that I got from it here. So let me know if you guys think the same thing. But here's how it goes. There's two versions. The first one has to do with this, known as Gower's Well. So the way it goes is, before this lake existed, there was a town there, again known as Bala. It was just a completely dry piece of land where the lake is now. But in that dry piece of land, there was this town, and in it there was a well that was considered to be very, very sacred. Why it was sacred is because of this. There was a spirit or some kind of goddess that apparently resided within that well. Who knows how that goddess came to be there? Who knows why she chose that well specifically? But there she was. And the way the story went, she was appeased. Like, she had everything okay as long as there was a lid put on the actual well at nightfall. So during the day, it seemed like the well could be used for regular purposes. People needed water, people needed to get it from the well, and so everything was fine. However, at nightfall, there was one single rule. You absolutely had to make sure that in order to please this goddess, that the well had to be closed. There had to be a lid placed on top of it, and that was it. So to make sure that the town absolutely followed this one rule, they tasked one person, in this case a guardian, think of him maybe like an old soldier or something along those lines, they placed him there to make certain it was his responsibility that this lid was always on the well. So probably this was like a night shift type thing for this person, where every single night there they were, guarding the place, absolutely making sure that the lid stayed on. Well, lo and behold, one night, after all those nights of everything going well, all of a sudden there was a festival happening that night, and rather than this guardian taking his responsibility seriously that night, he decided to join the festival, have a lot of drinks, and before he knew it, he forgot to put the lid on the well. Maybe he went to sleep somewhere. Maybe he decided to take a cat nap. Maybe he just said, ah, screw it, it's just one night. What else can happen on one single night? Either way, though, while he was away from that location, sure enough, this goddess realized that there was something bad. Like she had one rule, it was broken, and so now the town would pay for it. And so all of a sudden, there was this water that first started to seep out of the well, but then it started to rise into a fountain. Imagine like old faithful type fountain, just pouring out water. Everyone though in that town was not aware what was happening, because naturally they were asleep. They were counting in this case on this guardian to make certain that they could sleep well while all this was happening. But this water was seeping out and it was going into the town, and after a little while it started to rise, and when it did so, it went under their doors, it went into people's homes, and then finally that's when it started to wake people up, because they started to feel this water around them. So some of the townspeople quickly got out. They went to the well, straight to the source, and then that's when they saw that there was no lid on it. The lid was next to it, where it was no doubt resting from the previous day before. So they were trying to find where this guardian was, but they couldn't find him. And the way the legend goes was where he was, maybe again he was sleeping somewhere, maybe he was taking that cat nap, but once he realized what was occurring, he decided to run away. And when that happened, the story goes that eventually he drowned from this rising water. But there they were, these townsfolk, these people trying to make sure that this lid stayed on, but it was too little, too late. This goddess, whoever she was, absolutely made certain that no matter how much they forced that lid on, no matter how much they weighed it down, it was just too powerful for them. It kept the lid off of it. Like there was no way they could absolutely hold it down. So once that happened, they couldn't do anything to stop the flood. They went to the highest hills that they could, those that could survive, or those that were essentially like awake at the time, because who knows how many people could have been woken during that time period. It was a town, remember, there's a large amount of people there. So those that were aware of what was happening, they all went to the top of the hill, and there was nothing they could do, as they saw that this water just kept rising and rising until they covered the entire town of Bala, and that became the lake that you see to this very day. So pretty interesting, no? In that case, when it has to do with this version of the tale. Here in that case, there was one single rule. It was broken by this guardian, but who knows, maybe the festival was partially responsible as well. Who knows, somebody might have invited him from the festival. Either way, though, it was this version that I just spoke about. Now, the second version has to do with this. Again, having to do with people kind of doing bad things and then getting punished for it. So there was apparently a wicked prince there in that town. Again, we're talking about a town. This was a dry piece of land. It was the old town of Bala at the time, and there was a prince there by the name of Tegid Fowl. This guy, though, was someone that appeared in various other legends there in Welsh. But in this version, it has to do with this particular spot. So there he was, living in a palace right there in the middle of the town. He was someone that had lots of wealth. He had someone that had lots of power. Unfortunately, though, he used it to his advantage. He was considered to be very, very cruel. Someone that basically took out all his riches on these poor people and ensured that he ruled with an iron fist. And there's nothing much that these people could do, I guess, at the time, because that's what they considered the way things went. So whenever he had his first grandson born, he decided to have a great festivity. And when he did so, he invited all of his guests as his important guests, and some of his other family members. All of them were the same as him, very cruel, very mean people. They were there essentially just to enjoy all their riches, while again denying all of that other stuff for their townsfolk. And within that particular festival, there was a guest, someone who was brought forth to be a harpist and a singer. I don't know though if he was hired like for the place, or if he was just basically made to do the stuff there. But either way though, he was brought on board, and so the party started. There he began doing his thing, and then he was entertaining all these people there. Lo and behold, a little bit afterward, it was then that he thought he heard a voice behind them say these words. It said, "Vengeance will come," like with a big exclamation point to it. He thought he must have been hearing things, whoever this person was, the singer. But as he began to listen for it more, sure enough, he caught that there was somebody stating this over and over. And so looking behind him, again, all these other guests apparently did not realize that these words were being said. Only he did. He looked behind him, and then that's when he saw that there was a bird, and a bird that was near him that was saying these things. They were saying over and over, "Vengeance will come." And when that did so, this guest, this singer, he was of course naturally curious as to what was happening. Here you have a bird saying these words and saying it to him directly. So when it came time for a break, when it came time for him to be able to scoot away just a little bit from this location, he decided to follow the bird. No doubt it was summoning him to go somewhere, and he saw that it took him to one of the highest ridges near the palace, like almost it was at a place that you could overlook the entire town. And so this bird just led him to this place, and then out of the blue, it began singing on its own. Somewhere along the way, this singing caused, I guess you could call it like a trance-like state, where it kind of hypnotized this guy, the singer, and he in turn fell into sleep. The way I was reading it, it seemed like there was no way he could control himself. Whatever this bird was doing, it was absolutely causing him to just sleep on his own. And so when he awoke, that's when he realized something happened. He looked at the town, and the entire place was again completely submerged. There it was, swallowed whole by a brand new lake of water. In this case, what is the lake that you see today that has to do with all the legends, Lake Bala itself. So there's that version of the story too, because here it was, in this case, a singer who was brought on board, the only living witness from that town. He was saved by this bird. Whoever this bird was, who knows? Was it another form of a guardian? Was it another form of a goddess? Somebody that was bringing vengeance on the town itself? Who knows? But this thing saw that there was an innocent party within all of these wicked guests, and so he brought this bird brought this guest out, and then it brought the vengeance for it. And the way the legend continues to this very day, if you go to those waters there in Lake Bala, and you happen to be at a place where it's considerably quiet, like you're by yourself, and all you're hearing is nothing. All you're hearing is nature somewhere in the background. But if you go by the waters during those times, then you can hear a small voice of the bird saying one more time, "Vengeance will come, vengeance will come." And that's the other version of the story. So what do you guys think as far as this legend, in this case of the drowned town in Wales? Both of them having to do with very separate circumstances, but both of them leading to the very same ending, where you have, in this case, a town that was not following the rules, and then when that happened, they ended up being swallowed by these waters and this new lake. Anybody there from that area by any chance? Anybody happen to be there at Lake Bala, maybe on vacation or for work? I didn't know any more info. Please post those comments below. That'd be great to hear. Anyone else have a newer version, like another legend that I might have missed? There's two of them here. Who knows? There might be a third one associated with this lake. I'm wondering, though, if anybody has ever truly gone to the bottom of the lake. Remember, I was mentioning earlier how this lake, and most importantly, is very deep. It's 136 feet deep. So I wonder if there's ever been any expedition to try to find any remnants of this town, if there truly was one. If there was, I mean, imagine that. All of a sudden, these tales that seem very fantastical, here you have something showcasing proof. So if anybody can point that out, if there's ever actually been an expedition for it, that'd be great to share too. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.